off and then hand over to Ford in the spirit of industry collaboration, which is a lovely, lovely opening. So hopefully many of you saw the announcement earlier this week where we have now got a market data point for digital audio, so streaming and podcasting. So the IAB Online Advertising Expenditure Report, which is not the best name, but we've had it forever, has been going since 2002, and has been the sort of the record of digital revenue across the market. So tracking search, classifieds, and the myriad of different types of display. So for the last sort of 5 to 8 years, and I'll look at the PwC team, they can confirm that, we've had a lot of information on video, but been lacking in that audio space. So now we have a number in market that does talk to the audio market. So in true industry collaboration, as I mentioned, this has come to be both through the IAB and the CRA working together to make sure we had a whole market view of the world. So we've been working with PwC, Milton Data, CRA to bring that data to the market. And we'll be looking at the calendar year 22 revenue in a minute. But from this point on, in each quarterly report, we will have an audio line. So we'll start seeing some trend data, some growth data in market. So hopefully you've all seen the data. So a market that's worth just over $221 million, which is about 4% of the display market. So display market for the calendar year was about 5.5 billion, a subset of a bigger 14 billion market with a whole lot of other bits and pieces, search and classifieds, but a really good chunk of the market. And then broken into podcasting and streaming. If we look at global comparisons, our friends at IAB UK and US haven't released their 2022 data yet, but going on their 2021 data, the US market share, the equivalent market share, was about 4.6%. So a bit ahead of where we're at. So I'm imagining 2022 will probably be sitting around the 6% mark. We'll see, but a little bit ahead in terms of share of that display market. UK in 2021 was 2.2%. I'm imagining that will get pretty close to our 4%. So there's often a lot of similarities in market size across digital between Australia and the UK. So we'll share that data when it comes out with you. In the State of the Nation research, which Nat Stanbury from our team will present shortly, which is the 7th wave, which is unbelievable that we've been doing that for 7 years, we'll identify some of the investment trends, barriers and opportunities that are top of mind for the buyers in the industry as we move through this year. The growth in the digital audio market's underpinned by consumer engagement with the vast array of ad-supported content now in market. And I'm going to hand over to Ford, who's the CEO of the CRA. That must get tricky at times, to discuss some of the trends and drivers underpinning the growth in digital audio. Over to you, Ford.
Thanks, Gay. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much, Gay. Thanks to the IAB. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. I mean, as you said, you put the numbers out, I guess, effectively yesterday. I've seen a lot of coverage of them. It seems to me like a real milestone day. It's the day the digital audio has kind of finally emerged fully into the light. And with the fact that now we can say it's over 200 million of revenue in Australia, and it's growing fast, and that's what we should also say. This hasn't happened overnight. I know people in this room have been working in the audio space for 10 years. I can look certainly on commercial radio and audio for the last 5 years where there's been huge amounts of investment, huge amounts of innovation, and it's led us to where we are today. And indeed, it was the radio company's belief in audio that led us to our subtle name change last year. We used to be Commercial Radio Australia. We're now Commercial Radio and Audio. See how subtle that is? It's still CRA. It makes it so much simpler. But yeah, my thanks again, as I said, to the IAB and Gay for her leadership, because we've been working with Gay and the teams on putting together our revenue. Hasn't been easy in all places. We had to get approvals for everyone. Really thankful that we did. My thanks to the commercial radio networks. Also, Michael Duncan, he's not here, but he's been coordinating digital revenue for us. We'll continue to do so. And as Gay said, we'll be reporting on a quarterly basis, which is great. Now, look, in the next 5 minutes, Gay didn't show slides. I'm going to show an absolute bunch of slides. And all you need to know is they all point upwards. I also have an announcement about the Australian podcast ranker, and I've got a really, really brief ad for Radio 360, which you might have heard of. All right, so this is the first slide, and you referred to this, Gay. This is the UK digital audio market, and they have been tracking for the last 3 years. This started, I think, 21. I mean, a couple of points to note. A, it's growing really fast. As my colleague Joe Dick always tells me, it's growing 58% per annum. Podcasts growing slightly more than streaming. And actually, if you convert the £164 million into real currency, into Australian dollars, it's 290 million. And then if you look at the per capita difference between the two countries, actually, in Australia, our 221 million per capita is twice the level it is in the UK. So we're doing really well, leading the UK. So there are a lot of comparisons between UK and Australia having come from that point, but we're doing really well. And you know, more graphs with heading upwards. We expect to see the same sort of explosive growth they're seeing in the UK, in Australia. These charts all came from PwC's Outlook report, September last year. They were talking about podcast revenue trebling over the next 3 years and streaming revenue doubling. So we're in the right place. We're in growth markets. We have something called the Infinite Dial. We do every year. There's a new one coming out, I think, in April, looking at my colleagues. And what this tells us is that digital audio now has mass market participation. It has real scale. 78% of Australians listen every month. And I think it's about 71% listen every week, which is incredible. And we continue, certainly at CRA, to project and predict growth for music streaming and radio streaming. And radio streaming is becoming a critical focus for the radio industry, the radio and audio industry. It'll be very much part of Radio 360. I will talk about that in a second. And when you look at podcasts, sometimes people say to me, the podcast market has flattened out, it's saturated. The numbers don't suggest that to us. 40% of Australians are listening to podcasts every month. It's a world-leading level. I think the US is 38%, so that kind of shows how we stack up. Listeners listen a lot. They download on average 4.5 podcasts a week. They're listening 2 hours and 50 minutes. People are very, very committed to their podcasts and to the vast array of podcasts. Now, you might ask, and you would probably know the answer, why is digital audio growing? Why are we seeing these huge shifts? Now, I would say there's probably a number of factors. Two of them, certainly one of them is the growth of digital technology. That all accelerated during the pandemic when we all sort of moved our rate of devices, our adoption of devices up. But I would really emphasize the explosion of amazing audio content. New podcasts all the time, new digital radio stations, new streaming services. We've never had it so good in the audio space. It's intriguing, it's provocative, it's genre-specific, it's highly relevant, and it's tightly targeted. And that's what podcasts are all about. And there's so much digital audio content. And particularly with podcasts, it's really easy, certainly for me, to get confused about what's available, what's popular, and what is good. And that's why, I would highlight the Triton Australian podcast ranker. I mean, it's a great, great tool. Is that right, Richard? Fantastic. Did I get it right there, mate? 100%. All good. It's such an excellent tool and reference point. It's supported, I think, Jamie always keeps me in track here. It's about 25 leading Australia audio publishers. And last year it showed a staggering 755 million podcast downloads. 755 million. And that was an increase of plus, I think, 39% on the previous year. So really, really tracking well. When you look at the most popular titles, yep, you see true crime as a leading genre, whether it be Case File or anything to do with Teacher's Pet. We know that people love true crime. But you also see 3 out of the top 5 titles coming from commercial radio broadcasters, which I think is a sign of the investment we're making, not just in the content, but also in the sales representation of podcasts. You'll also note here the presence of the very excellent publisher Mamma Mia in the top 5 titles. Well, they were actually a new addition to the podcast ranker at the end of last year, a very welcome addition. And I'm absolutely delighted to announce today the addition of 3 more great podcast publishers. So our friends from the ABC are going to be joining the Australian Podcast Ranker, which I think is very exciting. Let the battle commence. Alongside great titles from Shameless and also The Squiz, and they'll be joining the podcast in the next couple of months. So, I think this is really exciting, it's really positive progress, and it's great news, and it's great to have them aboard. And I've got to say, if you're in this room and you work in the podcast market and you don't have your podcast represented on the Australian Podcast Ranker, you're very, very welcome to join. We'd love to have you aboard, whoever you are. So to finish, digital audio listening and revenue is growing fast. And I think what we've seen in the numbers that Gay has announced is that we've really achieved scale. And I think that was the thing that I think all the trades and the Australian all pointed out, that podcasts, digital audio is now at true scale, where we have the opportunity to fully commercialize, fully monetize the wonderful business that we've built. So for anyone who works in media agencies, advertising agencies, clients in this room, 2023 is definitely the time to add audio, and specifically digital audio, to your media schedule. This is the age of audio, always on, it's absolutely unmissable. I did say I was going to do a really quick ad before I finished. Here it is. One of the most significant initiatives for commercial radio and audio this year is the launch of our new measurement system. It's a hybrid measurement system. We call it Radio 360, and it will provide the capability for advertisers to separate and address radio streaming audiences for the first time. We've been talking about it for a long time, so I'm a bit reticent to talk about it very much, but nevertheless, we are now going to bring it to market. We're delivering it internally in March. We'll train our folks, we'll educate our folks, and we'll be bringing it to market in the next 2 to 3 months, and we look forward to talking to many people in the room about that, but that is a story for another day. So to finish, my thanks again to Gay, who's been wonderful to work with. Thanks to all of the IAB, thanks to all of you, thanks again to Triton. But also I want to thank all the digital audio pioneers who are in this room, who made this incredible market happen. It's great to see you, it's great to have this opportunity to speak, and I thank you for listening. Thank you so much.